His legs walked, taking him to his house and its compound at the surrounding banana grove. But his mind wandered. He stepped out of the path to relieve himself, but only a small trickle washed the trunk of the tree in front of him. The words of the seer were alarming. He had a deep-seated suspicion of the seer, but it was a tribal seer, a priest of the people, and he had to go to him for consultations after he noticed the blood specks on the liver of a goat he had slaughtered. The seer's pebble said someone was going to die. The bubble said a wife was going to die. The bubble said the spirits were jealous of a happy wife, a woman unmolested by her husband until old age, until she was called grandmother. He immediately knew it was his wife. What can I do to avert this? The pebble said he had to give her a thorough beating. The pebble said he had to send her to her parents after the beating. They can be appeased in another way. I'll give a number of goats. The pebble said he had to give his wife a thorough beating. The pebble said he had to send her to her parents after the beating. His wife came and unstrapped his leather sandals and led him behind the house to lean to, bathed him and rubbed him with the sharp-smelling unguent. His taut back and shoulder muscles stopped being like dogs with bare teeth. Girl, the old man said to his elderly wife, girl, I have something I had today. We'll talk about it after the meal. They came back from the evening into the house and sat facing each other, the hearth between them. The woman pulled a piece of firewood, cracked it into slivers, pulled off some loose shavings and arranged the tinder and the firewood over the coals. Small flames leapt at the shavings, caught the wood and illuminated the worried look on the old man's face. How is the child? He asked of the boy whose father, the only son, had agreed to let them spoil. He's asleep. The boy slept in his grandmother's bed. Soon, however, he would be too old for that. Eat your food, it's getting cold. Do you know where I went this evening? He started again, chewing his food nervously. The seer, she said. How did you know? He had stopped eating. I guessed, simply. The leaping flames of the dying fire caught her smile, and her white teeth were made whiter by the beauty gap of the two lower teeth. She could be still like a girl. The old man grunted. This was not the atmosphere for discussing the words of the pebble. He continued eating, slowly now, savoring the hidden nuances of taste and smell of the pottage made of mashed green bananas and fine shredded meat and stock and vegetables and herbs and the touch of her hand. This was not like any other meat and banana pap. He took a bite at the roasted sweet potato, chewed it with care, and washed it down with a draught from the pottage bowl. You cook, woman, he thanked, stretching himself and yawning. Have a long life, son of the chief, she answered. She collected the wood bowl and pluttered from the old man. The woodcarver, son of a woodcarver, a good warrior, a very brave warrior. He had been made the chief's counselor when he was relatively young. That had been during the time of the present chief's father. He still was the chief's counselor, much respected, but also much talked about because he had only one wife, and a counselor was a small chief, and whoever had of a chief with one wife. When the aging chief told him to get himself another wife, this was shortly after he was made counselor as a reward for bravery shown in the Battle of the 5 Rainy Days. He had answered with a riddle. A woman went to the riverside. The woman went to fetch water. The woman had one water pot. The woman arrived at the water point. The woman found another water pot. The woman came back with a pot. The woman brought back a water pot with potsherds in, not water. The old chief roared with laughter. A wife, a co-wife, witchcraft, and death, he shouted. But wait, he counted. Wait, how big would a chief's potsherd pot be? Your pots are undrinkable, chief, answered the young warrior. Your pots are made of iron. I'll sleep now, the old man said. The woman got up. She was tall and still firmly built. As she moved, the 24 ivory bangles she wore clanked like many castanets. She was remarkable in them, 8 in either hand and 4 heavy ones on each leg. The ones on her hands were etched with mnemonic marks for a long love poem. He had presented the bangles to her when their firstborn child, now the only son, was given a name. She had looked like a chief's bride. Your wife is comely, the chief had told him. We are your subjects, chief. She is very comely in the many ivory bangles she wears. I made them, sir, and ivory was from the elephant I shot with a poisoned arrow. I bought you one of the tusks, as is the custom. People say you bought the bangles. They forget that I am a carver, and furthermore, where would I get the cowries? The woman washed the utensils and sprinkled the water on the earth floor, threw a piece of cow dung into the coals. This would preserve the fire until morning, and instead of going to sleep with her husband, the young boy, she took off her skins and stretched herself beside the old man. I went to the seer, he started, but her hand was on his chest. She was almost hot to touch. Or was it he who was getting colder, dying slowly? She gave a little shudder as he moved closer to her in answer to her touch. He unsprung slowly, but when it came, it was like an intricate tattoo on a drum, coming unexpectedly and stopping suddenly, leaving the air quiet and pure. He languidly wondered how soon it would be before they had to be careful lest the boy noticed. Tell me about the seer, she asked. The spirit wants me to give you the ritual beating. Ah, she said, the seer wants you to beat me? The seer is only the mouthpiece of our departed fathers, woman. I know the seer, the woman said. The man kept quiet. He once wanted to marry me. He said he would put a spell on me. This was an often repeated story. During happier moments, he would answer, Toot, I got you. But now, he said angrily, it wasn't he who put the blood specks in the goat's liver. The old vulture, she murmured. There must be some way, he said, shifting uncomfortably. There is, and I'll tell you, she said. Can she see that her life is involved? He wondered. She continued talking, carried away by the simplicity and ingenuity of her scheme. Later, she noticed that he was fast asleep. Quietly, she stole back to her husband. The boy was fast asleep too. The next morning, the man went to his place of work and she, later in the day, went to the market. She heard people say something about elephants which had been near the forest. The herd is coming down to the plains now, one man said. Another commented on how devastating the beasts would be to the young plants. People who know to use poisoned arrows have followed them. With poisoned arrows, several can be killed, another was saying. A marketplace, many are its people and thrice as many its words. The women moved on, her bangles clanking softly. A loved woman blazoned with ivory. She was thinking, I'll first go home, cook for the man, then later I'll go to my brother's place. This brother, her elder brother, was the one who took their late parents' homestead and was now standing in place of her father. Her plan had been to go there weeping, complaining that her husband had beaten her without any reason. She would stay until her husband came to ask her to go back with him. She would refuse, forcing her clan and her husband's clan to meet and reconcile them. The fine would be imposed on the irascible husband, and the beer reconciliation drank. The spirit would certainly be fooled, and life would continue as before. She hurriedly bought various things with the cowries she had, buttered a sachetful of pears for a big hen, got a length of sugarcane to give the boy, some snuff for the man, salt and soda, and some monkey nuts which she loved to eat cooked, not roasted. As she slowly made her way home, she heard cries. They came from scouts who were perched on top of trees, observing elephants and warning people of the beast's movements. The cries were relayed from one scout to another, the elephants being escorted by these human noises until they moved out of the populated area. Beware, beware, they were crying. Beware, 6 elephants, 1 bull, and 5 cows are going down the hill at Sangayors. Beware, they have crossed the river Marwe. Pause. Beware, beware, people of Mtorobo homestead. The 5 she-elephants are now in your banana grove. The bull is on the path coming from the stream. The woman hurried home. The cries were now fainter, and taking into account that the cries were on top of tall trees, the elephants were now quite a distance away. I will go and cook, then go to my brother's, she thought. After finishing cooking and carefully covering her husband's food, it was not even near sunset. The boy had eaten and quickly skipped off to go and to play with the neighbor's children. Why hurry, she thought. I'll do a bit of hoeing in the part of the grove that the man said was very weedy. Then I start squeezing tears out of my eyes and go to my brother's house. She had to laugh at herself. This is the weedy place, she thought as she bent, the small hoe going at a fast practice speed despite the heavy load of iron bangles in the hand. The sound now a steady rhythm. She was disjointedly thinking of this and that, her hoeing missing a big fat millipede. You don't want to die so soon, you silly thing, you. Chuckle. She sang a small lullaby. Ah, what will old Mukusaro, my sister-in-law, say? Oh, this area is really weed infested. Only 3 weeks ago, I weeded it with the very, my daughter-in-law. Her husband had beaten her to a fingernail's distance to the grave. Why is my son so different from his father? Now, who is that crying? It is Kabanda. He asked for it. Why go to play with people who make you cry? The boy is always crying. People will say I don't feed him well. The smell of moist earth, warm with the day's sun. It was short. She heard the crash, then turned and saw it. It was a dark house and it was madly trumpeting. She was lifted bodily. At this, she was very indignant and she struggled to pull her skin to cover her nakedness. That was all. After bashing her on trees and banana plants, the wounded bull elephant put her on the ground and repeatedly stamped on her. They found her thus in her shallow grave, a mass of flesh and blood and shattered ivory bangles.